Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to another Primal The Awakening unboxing. This is the final video in the core box set. Then we'll hop into the expansions and add-ons after that. So the last thing we have to go through is the boss himself, the Awakened, which is a massive dragon. So if you haven't been following along the last video, just as a quick overview. First video, we went through the rules and overviews. Second one, we went through most of the tokens and card components that weren't specifically tied to another video, like monsters or campaign stuff. Then we went through all 4 hunters, each in their own video. Then we went through the monsters by element, 2 monsters per element. Then we went through a video going through the campaign, which had spoilers in it. For the campaign. So the first half is kind of just explaining how the campaign works. The second half has spoilers, including reward cards. If you like to see those reward cards, some which are actually going to be used specifically against the Awakened, you can go ahead and check that video out. And then now here we are on the big boss himself. So the big boss has a couple of interesting things going on for him. So here is our standard board for playing against all the monsters. So we have our timer tracker over here on the side, and we have our circle. When you fight the Awakened, you flip it to the other side. And now you're fighting him in this other actual mode. So it works the same way in general. Has the 4 sectors, has a timer on the side. That stays the same, but it has these 4 little holes, circles in the spot, which are for these ballista tokens, which will be loaded or unloaded. And they'll go in the corner, and then there will be a card that will interact with them, which will have you then getting to attack the Awakened if he's in, if his front is in the sector that one of these are pointing in. So if he's either this one or this one triggers. So these are ways to help out the heroes. They literally brought along extra equipment. Trying to grab my boards here. Come on. Sorry about this. These boards are kind of hard to grab. So then we have his big old massive board. I'm going to back this up a little bit farther so we can see this a little bit better. So we have his board, which so far looks like any other typical board. Does not have weaknesses on it. He does not, in general, have weaknesses. That's going to make him a little bit harder to fight. The only way to weaken him is using the special cards that have legendary, which count as every weakness, including against him. So you have to have better equipment to be able to fight him. There's this health tracker up there at 10. 3 spots for behavior cards, 3 spots down there for some perils. But, ding, 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 he has a second board, which then makes a full big old image there. So on the second one, we have 3 more spots for behavior cards. 3 more spots for more cards on the bottom. And then we also, for stances and stuff, stances and his perils, or his objectives and perils, because he has a lot of those. And then we have a storm tracker up at the top, which will get this little storm marker, which actually starts over there and it moves 1 through 10. And this actually dictates his damage. So he starts off with 4 damage. Then as the storm tracker increases, and other things will probably reference it as well, then he gets 5 damage, eventually 6 damage, and eventually 8 damage by the time he gets to the end. And I'm sure bad stuff happens if that ever gets to 10. So yeah, he does have 5 spots for behaviors, but he comes with these 2 awakening cards, double-sided, which cover up the last 2 spots. So he only starts with 4, and then some throughout the game, these will get revealed. And then he'll actually end up with more as he goes on. So as the game gets farther and farther along, he's going to become harder and harder to beat because he's going to get extra behavior cards. So he can have potentially up to 5 or potentially up to 6 out at a time. But even still, he starts with 4. So that's pretty crazy right off the bat. Here he is. Before I look at any more cards, he is massive. Big giant wings. He's our dragon of all dragons. Big spiky tail. Be careful on these. They're kind of sharp. He's got like all the massive horns on his face. Big giant ones. Smaller ones. Big horns on the top. I don't know how he gets anything into his head. He's got ruined all over below him, which is really cool. Not too many guys have bases that have extra stuff on them, so that's really fun. Ow, big spinies on the back. Like I said, watch out. These are kind of sharp. But yeah, he's our big guy. Plus, I love those little tears in his wings too. It's always neat to show like damage and stuff from these guys. So then the other things he's going to have 3 extra attrition cards, which will get swapped in. So these work just like any other attrition card for the most part. You can zoom this back down a little bit. So yeah, this one it does 1, but it has to specifically be blocked by a green card. This one has to be blocked by a yellow. This one, however, does 4. So this is the highest amount. So it replaces cards actually that are already in the deck. So you have to definitely watch out because it's going to add some more extra stuff to there. Okay, so before we start looking at too many of his cards, we're going to look at just some of the other rules or setup for him. So I'm going to look at special setup rules. And I'm looking at the ones under the Expedition, but they're all basically the same. So use the Ultimate Combat Board, which we talked about. 4 Ballista tokens in the center, black side up. Take his Extended Monster Board. Special Awakening cards, which you mentioned. Set the Storm to 1. Remove the 2 basic attrition cards. I'm trying to save this other page. And then this camera's not focusing very well for me. There we go. Move 2 basic attrition cards with 1, and 1 of the value of 2 from the attrition deck. Add his special ones. Build the Awakening's behavior deck by shuffling its signature behavior cards together with 10 random instant behavior cards. Alternatively, you can use 10 of these instant behavior cards instead of picking at random. So these instant cards are going to be 1 for each monster that's in the core set. There are 12 monsters, so you get 12 cards, so 2 won't be used. As you buy the expansions, you will get another bunch for each one of them, which should add up to 22 different cards. So I'll give you lots of different options every time you play against him. You can have these extra different random cards in there. Then take the Commander's Voice and activate yourself special objective cards. The other cards are only used in the campaign. So if you're playing campaign, there's slightly different setup rules, just involving how the deck gets set up. I'm not going to look at it too much, but basically it's like if you completed certain achievements of the game, you get extra bonuses against them, which will be things like different objective cards that will help you out, which we will look at those cards. But then you also will get extra armor and weapons, which we saw in the campaign video as well. So here's how ballistas basically work. Activate at the end of each round. It's described on the objective card, so we'll see exactly what they do. Targets 2 sectors near to the corners of the board. Consider to have line of sight to the monster if one of its target sectors is in the front. So only 1 and 2 are going to activate because one of their 2 sectors are seen in the front of him. We have the Extended Monster Board, which we mentioned. His Storm Tracker, which will move back and forth based on various things. Might spend some, I'm going to guess. His stance deck. He has 5 stances instead of 3. The stances follow standard stance rules, with the only exception being that the cards do not display the monster's damage because it's based on his storm level. And then the special attrition cards, which we saw before. We mentioned these instinct and behavior cards. Has total 22 behavior cards, signature cards. Identify the Awakened trophy up on the side. Unique moves represented by him. And then he has 1 instant behavior card for each other monster of the game. Well, signature cards must always be included in the deck. Instant cards are also added according to specific rules of the scenario. This offers a large number of possible combinations throughout both the campaign and expedition modes. See Rule 91 for any special rules that might relate to their cards, because they're all going to have different things. It's just a special ability that matches an ability on one of their other cards. So like this one showing Varaxin has Blazing Assault. Varaxin actually has a card called Blazing Assault. And it should work fairly close to the same. It might not be identical. Like they tried to pick cards that Don't rely on something specific on like one of the other guys' stances or whatever. Also being noted, all his stance cards are level 3. You can only fight him at level 3. He does not have the option for anything cheaper. Special objective and a sealed envelope. Awakening includes special... the commander's voice and codes are always included. The Heart Piercer is specifically campaign, only if you unlock it through achievements. So you have special ones that won't be used. Also is included as a sealed envelope. The reward S3 is a special 3. Do not open it unless the game instructs you to do so. Is a specific campaign mode and contains a secret card. So we will look at that at the very end, because that will be also a spoiler for the game. And then, just also to mention, we have the legendary equipment. If you're playing the campaign, you may be unable to unlock special equipment. If you do, players may use these against the final scenario against the Awakened. So Celestial and Ancient. Text on these cards interact with special mechanics of the Awakened. So special equipment sets can only be used during that scenario. So I did say in the campaign video when I showed these off that you could use them in other modes. Again, you're playing your own expedition mode. Make up your own rules. Go ahead. But the thing is, it says do not use them in expedition mode. My guess is because only one is they have a little bit stronger attack, but also because most of their abilities revolve around stuff that the Awakened does. So although you could argue you could use them, they might not. Half the abilities on them won't trigger. But again, I always play with the rule. It's your game. You can do what you'd like to do. Alright, and then here's what that envelope looks like. It says, do not open till instructed. I already opened it, but that's me. But we'll look at it at the end. So we're going to look at his stance cards to begin with. So we're going to start with stance 1 for the Awakened. He has resistance, and at the start of round 1, the Awakened gains 1 struggle per player. And at 8 damage, he drops to the next. He starts with 30 damage, which is what most guys end with on stance 3. Resistance. When you complete a stance card, the keyword resistance do not carry excess damage over to the next stance card. So yeah, you have to do a lot of damage to hurt him the first time, and then it doesn't carry over. On the backs of the cards, there's going to be a picture of his head, because again, there's no alternate. When he goes to stance 2, he now has 40 toughness. And he could have various amount of attacks. So depending on how quickly that storm can go up or down, he could end up with, he could be at 4 damage to at 5 damage. Hopefully by the time you get to stance, you get out of stance 1, he's not too far up the storm meter. He has resistance to shield 2 when revealed. Increase the storm level by 1, cannot be prevented. Then place a fire terrain in the front sector. So fire terrain will obviously go a little fire token. I don't have that sitting here next to me. But while you're in a spot with fire terrain, you cannot play cards into your sequence. You have to move. If at the end of the round it flipped from red to yellow, at the end of the next round it flips from yellow, it disappears. If something gets set on fire and there's already a fire there, then the player becomes burned. If a player is burned or are burning, they take a burning token. Next time you empty your deck, discard a burning token, suffer damage equal to your weapon level. If you're already burning for a reason, discard the top 5 cards of your deck. So if he keeps setting things on fire, he can potentially burn you, then you'll take extra damage as well. Then we have Shield. So Shield X is, each time a source of damage is dealt to a monster, reduce that damage by X if the current stance has the keyword Shield X. Damage reduction is applied to each source of damage. So this is interesting because just by looking at this, right, we have a bunch of guys that gain struggle right off the bat. So he kind of mimics some of the other monsters that way. Plus that's going to help him with boost, possibly unleashing. With Shield, he's mimicking some of the monster the metal guys, who also had lots of them had resistance as well. And then with fire, he's kind of mimicking the fire guys. So I wonder if he's going to kind of pull a little bit of element from every single type. Be interesting. At stance 3, he has 50 toughness. When revealed, the Awakened gains 1 per player struggle. Increase the star level by 1, cannot be prevented. Remove an Awakening card from the monster, unlocking an additional behavior slot. So he already gets one right there. Cool. And notice his weaknesses so far, every spot but his head. That's the only spot that's not weak. He has probably horns protecting him. At stance 4, which is crazy, right? 60 toughness. When revealed, increase the storm level by 1 cannot be prevented. If the storm level is at 6 or higher, players in the front sector suffer an attack. And once it's at 6, he's doing 6 damage. And if it's higher than that, if it got up to 9 by that point, he'd be doing 8 damage. So he's doing 6 or 8 damage to you. Then if we get to 5, he stays at 60 per player. When revealed, the Awakening gains 1 struggle per player. Then remove the Awakening card from the monster board and unlock an additional behavior slot. It becomes vulnerable in every spot. Keep in mind, though, think about this. So for stance 4 and 5, he has 60 per player. So that means in a 2-player game, that's 120. You're playing a 4-player game. That's 240 damage you have to deal with him just to do 1 damage point to him. Granted, by the time he's at level stance 5, he only needs 2 more hits to be finished. But still, that means 240. That means you need 480 damage to take him out by the end of the game. And like, if you look at some legendary weapons, right, and they're doing 10 damage a hit, right, just 1 hit, and it's, you know, how quick are you going to be able to do that? That's going to be crazy, right? You're going to have to have some good combos, some extra boosts. Because even at 10 per weapon swing, even if you played average of 3, each player played 3, they'd only be doing 30 each time. That's 3, 6, 9, 12, it's 120. You know, that's half his health in 1 round, right? So if you're only doing like 3 attacks with no extra boosts and anything like that, that could be very hard to beat. But that's crazy, right? But hopefully we have objectives and other things that are going to help us. That's probably what these ballista are going to do. And hopefully it doesn't have any healing effects either. All right. He has some peril cards. So he has Primal Rage. This starts off, it's permanent and immune to blind, which means you can't put a blind token on this and shut it off. When a player suffers attrition damage, increase the storm level by 1. When the storm level reaches 10, all players are KO'd. Okay, so as of right now, we don't know how to reduce that storm damage. He doesn't have any way to spend it. He just has different ways to increase it. On 1, 2, 3 of his cards, he's going to increase it. So at least 3 stances, he's going to increase it. Yeah, hits level 10, it's going to be, you're going to get destroyed, and there's nothing you can do about it. He also, on stance 1, has another permanent, Indomitable Fury. At the start of the round, perform 2 behavior refreshes instead of 1. Escalation. The Awakened gains 1 per player struggle instead of 1. So escalation, I believe, is when the deck runs out, right? The behavior deck is emptied. Monster escalates, reshuffles it, immediately gains 1 struggle. So instead he gains 1 per turn. Since he has potentially 4 to 6 behavior cards out, depending on how far into you are, that's already going to be a pain because more stuff's going to trigger, so he's going to go through it a little bit quicker. Plus the fact that he also has, if he's burning 2 refreshes, he's going to go through them a lot quicker. So he's going to gain up to that a lot faster. Alright, I'm going to scooch this one over. For stance 2, he gains Firestorm. At the end of the round, if the aggro player is threatened, to place a fire train in the front sector. Oh boy, so he's going to place more fire. Then if we hit stance 3, we get Celestial Drain. When a player suffers attrition damage, the Awakening heals half the damage it currently sustains. If he currently sustains no damage, he heals 1 wound instead. Oh, I was hoping he didn't have a healing ability. That's mean. So this basically means, like, if you need, let's say it's on stance 3, so let's pull a stance 3 card. He takes 50 per player. So if you're playing a 2-player game, he needs 100 damage on him to be able to do it. So if you're at 80 damage of that 100 and you haven't finished him off yet, you suffer attrition damage. He just healed 40 of that. Especially if it's one of the, if he it ends up not having any because you ended up landing just right exactly the 100 and you had none sitting on there. Instead, he just straight up heals a wound. Crazy. Or if he keeps healing enough, right? Keep taking attrition up, does it down to from 80 down to 40, then down to 20, then down to 10, then down to 5, and then, you know, eventually he's just gonna get to the point where there's 1 and he's gonna heal. Obviously, if you're that high, it's not gonna make a difference, but maybe if you just damaged him enough, he switches to stance 3, right? And then he only has 10 left over, it could run out very quick. Crazy. Healing effects are really mean. But it makes sense. In stance 4, he has Storm's Wrath. When the Storm level increases, the Awaken gains 1 struggle per player. And then finally, in stance 5, he has the Final Breath. The Awaken is unstoppable. Yes, he sure seems it. He has Unleash, increase the Storm by 1. So if he gets all his struggle up enough, that Storm increases. And when it hits 10, you're going to lose. So he's been building up struggle the entire game, probably for that ability. And then what does Unstoppable mean? Each time a behavior card is triggered, he gains an extra struggle. So he's going to try and unleash as quickly as possible. So if this ever gets to stance 5, you probably only got like another turn or 2 before he's going to probably hit that level 10, unless you can somehow shut that all the way down. Awesome. Seems really fun. I mean, there's a hang of like you're frustrated because you're like, oh, it's going to be very difficult to fight. But on the other hand, you're also like, bring it on. Alright, so his objectives. He has the Commander's Voice. I don't know who this commander is, but that'd be a cool extra card to have, right? And that extra character, if they ever make an expansion, make this character, maybe somehow utilize the Ballista tokens with her. I'm guessing that's possibly what this does. But yeah, this would be interesting to have another extra character added to the game we haven't seen before. Permanent. So at least it stays out. Set up, place 1 per player counters on this card. When the storm level would increase, players may remove 1 counter to prevent that increase. So you can't reduce it from the stance cards, but you can reduce it other times. So at least that's helpful. That means you at least do 4-player game, you get 4 counters you can remove. When you complete a stance, place counters on this card until they're 1 per player. Okay, cool. So that means you're not gonna hold them back. Every time the storm increases, just automatically want to get rid of 1. Get rid of 1. Because then when you defeat them, they're gonna replenish anyhow. There's no reason to like hold them off, as far as I can tell. We'll see if a behavior card changes my mind on that. The other one we get is Artillery Assault. It's also permanent. At the end of the round, activate all Ballista. Ballista activation. If the Ballista is loaded and has line of sight, it deals 10 damage for each counter on the Commander's Voice. Oh boy. Then that Ballista is flipped to its loaded side. Otherwise, if the Ballista is unloaded, flip it to its loaded side. Okay. So here's where, right here, I say, unless something wants to keep me from removing them counters, and this is what would do it. Do you, early on or at some point, do you keep removing these counters, or do you let the Ballista every other round do 10 damage per counter? So if you have 4 players, they're doing 40 damage every turn, right? So that could definitely be helpful. I mean, like right off the bat, even like starting from stance 1 here, when he starts with 30 health per player, right? So if he has, if you're playing a 4-player game, that's 120 damage. 120. So yeah, you might want to, and none of the damage carries over. So you might want to like, maybe only get rid of 1 storm card. I can take 1 there. I can take 1 here. And not prevent all of them so that ballistas can keep doing extra damage. That's a tricky trade-off. Oh, that is mean. Then the campaign will unlock the Heart Piercer. Which maybe this is the commander's weapon, right? That'd be kind of cool. So we have like gun and sword and shield and all this. Might be a giant spear. That'd be awesome. When the Awakened suffers a wound, the player may reveal 3 blue cards from their hand to place a counter on this card. End of the round, if there are 1 per player counters on this card, the Awakened suffers a wound, then remove this card from the game. Okay, so it's one free one, but hey, that's not bad either, right? Just eventually a way to trigger this, and you may reveal it, although it sounds like, if there are that many counters, you have to do it. So again, if you're playing a 4-player game, once there's 4 counters, so when you have 3 counters on there, you might want to wait. You can hold this off until he hits stands 5, right? And just make sure nobody plays 3 blue in a row until stands 5. If they don't have to, and then boom, you can get 1 extra wound in there. So now he only has 1 wound left to go, and that could be very helpful to do as well. So this could be very useful if you bide your time with it. Cool. Let's go ahead and look at his behavior cards. So they're gonna have different things, because unlike the other ones where they had an easy and hard one, his are all hard. So we have one that's gonna trigger with 2 attacks. It's gonna be Rise of the Storm. Increase the storm level by 1. The Awakening gains 1 per player struggle. The Awakening of the Beast will once again devastate life on Theria. Oh boy. And at the end of the turn, we get Earthquake. All players must recycle all cards in their hand. Oh, that's mean. That means discard all cards and then redraw them. Again, once your deck runs out, you take that fatigue damage. That doesn't help. Boost 1 per player. Ballistas do not activate this round. So at least he's going to spend those, which will help him not hit that Unleash at the end of the game. Cool. Then we have when you run out of cards, or if anyone is when your hand is empty, or when you run out of, anyone's in the tail sector. So I wonder what the run out of cards thing, I don't think they really mention it too much in here. Might be a rules question. It has to get looked up on like Board Game Geek or something like that. Is if you play like that last card that said recycle your hand and you have to discard. So it says after a player enters their hand, 0 cards in their hand after playing, discarding, or any other game effect. Oh yeah. So right here for recycle. I'm betting that would trigger that, because that recycle says you have to recycle your entire hand. And to recycle, you have to discard X number of cards, right? I just want to double check the rules on there. Discard X cards from your hand. The only question is it going to trigger in between? So like when recycle hits, I guess that's where the question comes in. So when you recycle, is it going to trigger in between the discarding and drawing part? Is it as soon as you discard the last card of your hand, like for stamina, great. You discard it, your hand is empty, it's going to generate stamina. But recycle is discard then draw. I wonder if it's combined. I'll have to look that up. Alright, but we'll see what that is. We'll see what we're playing with again. So we have Baleful Wrath. I can zoom up a little bit on these guys. The Awakening gains 1 struggle per player. The aggro player suffers attack unless there's 1 per player counters on the commander's voice. Again, so it's kind of like you want to use that to like remove them stun counters, but it makes the ballista better. Or them storm counters to stop them. Or it's going to make a card like this not have to do damage. So again, that storm hits 10, you know you're going to lose the game. Interesting. Its voice animates the storm, which rages in the sky as it does within you. And if anyone is in the rear sector, he's going to have Cataclysm. Each player in the rear sector suffers attack unless they reveal 2 green dodge cards from their hand. Flip any loaded ballista that target the rear sector to their unloaded side. Cool. She's going to unload your ballistas. We have 1 for a blue and 1 for the front sector. Burning Gaze. The active player takes a Disrupt token. The fairy thingy grows in tandem as the thunderous rhythm of the storm. One boost, the active player becomes threatened. Disrupt token again means when you play a maneuver card. You play your attrition phase, it cancels one of your defenses. Ooh, that's mean. Saying you're going to take attrition damage more often. And Flaming Growl. The Awaken gains 1 struggle per player unless the player removes a counter from Commander's voice. And if you have 0, then you can't do it. Each player in the front sector suffers burning unless they discard a green card. So of course he's a dragon, so he's going to play like the burning effects if you're in the front sector or if you play 2 defense cards. Straight in the Heart. Increase the storm level by 1. Oh boy, another one. Player in the front sector may exile 2 attack cards from the hand. If they do, remove this card from the game and the Awakening immediately suffers 1 wound. Okay, so that's cool, because at least he's still going to gain that storm level. At least you can keep it from coming back again. And he gets a wound, which could be very helpful. But you have to exile 2 cards. Again, this kind of just one of things like, the first time this card comes up, do you limit 2 cards in your deck automatically? To have him suffer a wound, but get rid of this so you don't ever have to worry about 1 more storm coming? Or do you save this to like later again, like try and hold off and hope it pops up at like stance 4 or 5, and get one of them quicker final blows in, right? When he takes a lot more damage, because it'd be better to like do it when he has 60 per player versus 30 per player, right? But then the thing is, this is going to could potentially trigger multiple times and you have that storm increase. Interesting that you have to debate that. Inferno. Place a fire terrain in the front sector. Boost 1. Each player in the front sector must discard a green from their hand or suffer an attack. His last 2 regular cards, one has if you move. He is going to Outburst. The active player suffers 1 attack plus 1 unless the top card of the discard pile is green. And Boost 1, the active player becomes threatened. And if he rotates Tempest Tail, the Awaken gains 1 struggle per player. Each player in the rear sector suffers 1 attack unless they reveal 2 green cards from their hand. If no players in their rear sector, the flank sectors are targeted instead. Crazy. So also just an interesting note. We have end of turn, rear sector, front, double defense, rotate, double attack, empty hand, front sector, movement, and defense. Or, not defense, maneuver. So nothing for specific. They're all different though. So that's just going to make him maybe a little bit trickier, maybe not, because you're not going to have to, at least at this point, without looking at the other behavior cards, the instinct ones, you're not going to have to worry about him triggering multiple things right off the bat. But he's going to have something that's going to trigger off of just about everything. Alright, then we have our instinct cards. So if we play, now this is where it's going to start getting harder, right? If you play a red or double red, we're going to get Blazing Assault, which is Vraxin. So show his little picture there as well as his name. The active player discards the top 3 cards of their deck. That player suffers an attack unless the green is discarded. 2 boosts. Repeat the base effect of this card, then place a fire terrain in the front sector. More fire. Awesome. And again, he keeps placing them fire all the way around. He keeps turning and placing more fire. Either he's going to set you on fire again, you're going to get a burning token, or he's going to keep placing them, then no one can play cards until you wait it out. Spirit of Waltar. Waltar for Kaijera. All players discard the top 3 cards of their deck. The Awakening gets +3 attack until this turn and becomes vulnerable. So he gains extra damage, but you can hit him twice as hard. Interesting. So those are fire. Up next we have our horn monsters. So we have one that is aggro card, one that is for rampaging. Crashing Charge for Toramak. The dragon swoops down on you and shatters the rocks, letting out a deafening roar that harmonizes with the booming sound of thunder from the storm. So no regular ability, but he has a boost. The monster immediately turns to the active player, then the player And the active player's sector suffer damage ×2 unless the active player removes a rock or plateau terrain from their sector. If they do, remove this card from the game. Interesting. So yeah, depending on what mode you're playing, he'll get to remove them rocks. So just as an example, if you're playing Expedition, he starts with either 3 rocks or 2 rocks and a plateau. And he has a little bit different setup for his campaign. So you have a couple of options to use that, but that, again, gets rid of your advantages as well. So eventually you won't be able to do it anymore. And for Grigorax, you have Dragonfire. Place a Dusk token in the front sector. So yeah, he's utilizing his Dusk ability. Place for 2 boosts, place a fire terrain in the aggro's player sector. Players in that sector suffer burning. Oh boy, so even if they haven't had a fire there, he's going to set them on fire. Dusk tokens are little tiny green tokens that were used in the Horn Guys. So your attrition phase, immediately place a Disrupt token for each Dusk in your sector. When you receive a Disrupt token placed on the defensive card in your sequence, that card does not count on your attrition check. You have maximum 2 Dust per sector. So this will basically throw it out there, and it'll anyone in there, instead of just placing one Disrupt token on a specific guy, it'll affect anybody in that sector. Awesome. For our Coral, we have 2 more. We have double defense or single defense. And we're going to start with Coral 1, who has regeneration. The Awakening heals half the damage it currently sustains. More healing cards. Awesome. And then we have for 1, we have Surge of Healing for Oroxen. Which says, inside the storm, the dazzling light, as bright as a star, shrouds the body of the dragon. Its roar grows fiercer and its wounds begin to heal. 2 boosts per player. The Awaken heals all the damage it currently sustains. If they currently sustains no damage, it heals 1 wound instead. So now you guys, 2 more ways of healing, which is great. Crystal, we have a blue maneuver or end of turn. The first one will trigger Felixar's Mirror Image. The active player reveals the top card of their deck. The player suffers attack unless the revealed card is a blue. So it's a gamble unless you're planning for it somehow. At the end of the turn, we have Massive Stomp for Moracrass. Each player suffers damage ×2 unless they discard a green from their hand. If all players discard, remove 1 struggle per player. So again, this is, can you afford it? Even if you can, I don't think you have to, but yeah, why would you want to take 2 damage versus removing struggle? At least it's discarding. For Thunder, we have Instant, or when your hand empties. Instant, oh boy. So this will trigger as soon as it is out. Lightning, the aggro player suffers attack unless they discard a green card from their hand. For Azu. And then for the hand one, we have for Jericho's, we have Insane Echo. The aggro player becomes dazed. If the storm level is at 5 or lower, increase it by 1. Otherwise, the Awaken gains 1 struggle per player. Oh boy, it's gonna up that effect. And then we have Dazed. Gives them a little Dazed token, which basically negates the ability of the next blue card. It still removes the struggle, but it has no effect. And then we have the last 2, which are Metal. We'll have another Instant, which is always great. Serpent Steel for Hiram. The Awaken's health is 5 or lower. The Awaken gains 1 struggle per player. Alright. The Awakened player turns to the players currently sustaining the most damage. That player suffers an attack unless they discard one yellow card from their hand. And then the last one is in the front sector. We have Arkham Sting. The Awakened shield increases Value increases by 5 till the end of this turn. Crazy, right? So you have some good cards there. So that's it. And then when we get the expansions again, we're going to add more for each different expansion you get. You'll add another one in there. Just more options, more terrible things that can happen. So we have 10 of those, and we have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 12. So 22 behavior cards. I wasn't sure. They accidentally gave me an extra behavior card, and I wanted to make sure it wasn't supposed to be in there. It's just another Arcane Serpent Steel card. So I was like, oh, maybe they... Or not Serpent Steel, the Arcane Skin. So I was like, maybe it just accidentally got in there. Alright, so that's the Awakened. He is going to be a pain to fight. He doesn't have a lot of weight. Basically, your whole goal is to keep them storm cards down. But again, you have to balance between, do you use the counters to keep them on there and then activate the Ballista and have them for some of the other defense and other cards, or do you remove them to keep that storm marker down, which keeps his damage down, keeps you from that final that peril. It's not even a final peril. That's what one of the base perils. It's on level 1. Yeah, so it's a level 1, so as soon as it hits level 10, all players are KO'd. There's nothing you can do about that. Because once all players are KO'd simultaneously, you lose the game. The only thing that might keep you alive is there are some equipment and item cards, like some of the coral one. I think there's a coral, one of the metal ones, and I think one of the legendary items might do it as well. That lets you, those legendary ones don't. The one metal armor, I think it is, lets you automatically revive. So bare minimum is if you hit level 10, it's going to KO everybody. If that card activates, lets him instantly recover, it would give you wouldn't lose the game. But the thing though is, I think the one of two things would happen there is, one, is there going to be enough time left in the game for that player to stay alive long enough to resurrect everybody else? Because either he's going to have to spend his time running around reviving them, which costs him extra cards and stamina and stuff, or to wait for them to revive, which is 2 turns. If it hits 10 very early on for some reason, then possibly that could happen. It could definitely might have enough time, but if it hits like round 8, it's not going to happen in time for everyone to get back up. Maybe the Ballista might do enough damage, so maybe there's a slim chance if you have that one piece of armor that might do it. But then the other kicker would be, is I would say, if anything adds any storm, it's already at 10, it's going to trigger again and KO them, and then you lose the game anyhow. So you're fighting that losing battle for that potential thing. Alright, last thing we're going to look at is this extra secret card. This is a super spoiler, so if you do not want to know what this is, hey, turn off the video. Thanks for joining me. Hope you guys check out the rest of the video. Hope you come back for the expansions. And see all the rest of the cool stuff. Otherwise, let's go ahead and hop into what this last extra card is. So this is, we have a very mad lady here. And this is I'm going to drop these off down here. So we can look at this and we'll center this. This is our last objective. So when he hits level 4, we have a permanent. When revealed, reduce the storm level by 1. While this card in play, the storm level cannot be increased beyond 9. And the damage dealt by each ballista is increased to 5. So if you play the game right and you get certain I don't want to say right. If you hit the campaign in certain orders and you unlock this card, you are going to basically, you can't lose to that storm thing anymore, which would be very helpful. So if you're having trouble beating them, this is definitely what you're going to want to do. And then you are going to also do 15 damage for each one of those cards. So since you have to worry about removing storm counters anymore, you can just sit there and let it kick off. So that's pretty cool, right? What's also interesting, though, so that's neat. That's just an extra card you can unlock. So I just want to look at this. This is her, and this is her as well. but it doesn't look like her face is scarred in the smaller picture. Try to see if we can get a better zoom on that. It's hard to tell because it looks like it should be the opposite side, but it could just be her face is turned the other direction, right? So you can't really tell as much on that side. You see some scars on her face, but yeah, because she has some sort of direct vendetta against this dragon specifically. So again, I would love if they made if they add an extra expansion with her character and then give her that spear. That'd be kind of a neat, like, giant spear, so you have her out there fighting. Maybe use the ballista as an extra mechanic as well. That'd be kind of neat, but I don't know how you would really interpret that with everything unless she's allowed to bring like one ballista token, and then help trigger certain things, but maybe she has to spend stamina to like unlock it. That'd be kind of cool as well. Alright, so that's what we have for Primal The Awakening. Hope you guys enjoyed the core box. We have 3 monster expansions to go through. We have Ice, Venom, and Feather. Then we have the Nightmare expansion, which are stretch goal characters, which adds some more monsters in there. Of the current elements, we get some more for filling the extra elements out, as well as we get Nightmare versions of some of the monsters. So if you didn't think level 3 was hard enough, let's try some harder versions. With new behavior cards and new stances. And then finally, the last 2 things. We have the other Hunter box, which has the other 2 hunters in there, the dual blades and the giant gun, which have their own special mechanics. They're a little bit, they play a little bit different than the other characters, but it makes it interesting. Then the last thing we'll be going over will be just some extra add-on stuff, tokens, storage box, stuff like that. Hope to see you guys for the rest of the videos. Hope you guys have been watching all these. Appreciate it if you have and you stuck around. Hit me up in the comments. See you guys later. Bye.